Greetings and welcome to sort of a different kind of video. This one is going to be based or help you hopefully review for your test. And you're thinking to yourself, I'm in college, I don't need help getting ready for a test. Well, on the chance that you do, I believe this video will help you at least organize your thoughts and help you avoid some of the common mistakes people make getting ready for a test in classes like this. So, where is it? There we go. So let's get you pumped up for your first test, right? So we'll look at some preparation do's and don'ts, a study plan, how to use review guides and textbooks at this point. Will you see mastering questions? Where can you figure out what you've missed and haven't missed? The importance of practice and how to get ready for the essays, including the two most common mistakes people make on essays. So first, some do's and don'ts. Do's. Focus on areas that you have not done well on first and then on other topics. It really isn't helpful to spend time reviewing stuff that you already understand. You want to focus on areas that don't make sense so that you can get those looked at first. Develop a study plan, and we'll discuss that more in a second, and stick to it. Come before the test if you have questions. I'm always going to be there before a test in advance, so prior to a half hour or so prior to the test, I'll be there. Come by if you have questions, and if you have questions before then, of course, please email them. Don't just wait. These will sound a little preachy, but get a good night's sleep before the test. The value of sleep, especially on a test that requires you to think for 60 to 90 minutes, is understated. You really do need to make sure you understand that good rest is going to be very helpful and be a very good tool in your toolkit. And drink water or juice. Try to avoid caffeine. It gets you a little hyper. But drinking water or juice keeps you hydrated, keeps you fresh, keeps you focused. A lot of people are actually dehydrated and feel a little run down from that. So don't do that. Make sure that you've had some fluids. Don't try to go back and reread whole chapters. This is a really common mistake. Well, I have a big test, so I'm just going to go back and read everything. Well, again, you're going to be reading stuff you already know in many cases. That's not productive, and it's really hard to read a textbook, from 4 chapters worth. So you're going to find that you're not actually going to get a lot out of that. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask me, ask your lab instructors, ask your classmates. Many times you're just like one idea away from understanding something, but it's just not clicked yet. If you ask, someone can explain it to you in a different way, and maybe that's going to be all the difference. Don't expect to do really well if you don't prepare. And this will sound like a downer. Well, I'm just going to maybe go in there and kind of wing it. By the time that you get to this level of class in college, it's very difficult to do that. You're going to have to prepare. If you have been doing the mastering assignments regularly and correctly, that is, you've been thoughtful, you've been giving it some time, you haven't looked up every question and every answer, you'll probably find that you're going to be pretty prepared. But you can't expect to walk in there and just do well without preparing in advance. I really don't recommend going back and trying to watch all the videos again, just because there's going to be 4, 5, 6 hours of videos by this point. And if you do, you're just not going to be able, again, to retain everything really well. The videos will get you but so far. Then reading and then delving into areas you don't understand are going to be more important than just watching all the videos again and saying that you've studied. And don't stress out. It's a test. It is not life or death. It is something where if you don't do well on the first test, there's going to be other tests. If you do well, there's going to be other tests. So be positive, keep some perspective, learn from it, and once you do, you'll be ready for the next test. So I mentioned a study plan. What's a study plan look like? If you're going to make up one, some things that you want to do. You want to first pre-assess. What do you know? What do you not know? And what's still giving you some problems here? Why you do this is because it does help you figure out where you need to spend your time. Again, one of the biggest time wasters is to spend time on stuff you already get. So if you pre-assess, and a good way of doing this is going back and looking at your mastering scores. If your mastering scores are really good in one area and not good in another, that's a big hint that that one area is one that you might want to spend more time on, and the area you've mastered, spend less time on. Next, you want to determine your study time. be realistic. Don't tell me you're going to study 27 hours between now and your next test, because you're not going to. But you may say, realistically, with my work schedule and life schedule and everything else, I'm going to put in 6 hours or 10 hours or whatever it is. Once you know how much time you have, it's easier to then prioritize your studying. Let's say that we do have 4 chapters on this test, that you may say, I need to really spend more time on chapters 3 and 4 and not as much on 1 and 2. Well, you may say, of those 10 hours, I'm going to put 7 hours, 6 or 7 hours on those 2 chapters, and I'll spend the other 3 hours just reviewing the stuff I already know from chapters 1 and 2. Write down a schedule and stick to it. If you say, I've only got an hour on a particular chapter, and once you've hit the hour, do move on to your next thing. It's great to really, really understand chapter 2, for example, but if the test covers 4 chapters and you've only mastered 1, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Do stay on schedule. And this goes back to what I just said, that if you're on schedule, then you have a better chance of seeing everything for the test and not skipping any areas. Let's see. Build in some downtime. This sounds really kind of strange for an instructor to say this, but if you don't build in some time where you're not thinking about this, it's just going to be harder for you to retain it when you are looking at it. You may say, between now and your test, I'm just going to take off Friday night and I'm just going to hang out with the family and not do stuff, or I'm going to take off part of Saturday afternoon and do something fun. If you do that and let your brain rest, you can retain more information when you are studying. And try to finish your major studying a couple days before the test. If you do that for a Tuesday test, for example, if you're finishing Sunday, then it gives your brain a little chance to kind of rest, and then when you can skim over things, let's say Monday, and then anything that's still not quite clicking, you can spend some time on that. But if you're studying up until right before the test, you really don't know, again, if you got it or not until you look back over it. And if you don't have time to look back over it, then I can pretty much guarantee you're going to miss some questions you think you should have gotten because you didn't get a chance to skim back over one more time. If you finish a little in advance of the test, then it gives you a chance to go back. So how do you use your review guides and your textbook at this point? What should you do? The review guides are very useful to help you diagnose what you do know and what you don't know at this point. And that's going back again to sort of pre-assessing. I'm having a hard time finding a place for me today here. Okay, so how I would suggest to print the review guides off and then go through and just check things that you already understand. I can name, properties of water, or I can describe bonds. If you feel pretty good about that, then just skip those questions and go to put question marks next to things that don't make sense. These are something that you want to ask about, or you want to go back and read about some more. And when you get done with your review guides, you may have half of them checked and half of them with question marks, or 2/3 of them checked and 1/3 with question marks. But there again, it helps you get what you've already gotten and put that aside and then focus on areas that you need to spend more time with. So I would suggest you try to get through all the review guides for all the chapters, just because that will make sure you've seen everything. It's better to have an overview of everything than spend a lot of time in just one spot. Okay, look over here. The textbook is a resource, and I say that because you're not necessarily, again, wanting to read whole sections over again, but you may want to read small sections, a small block of information if it's something that hasn't made sense. If you still don't understand covalent bonds, go back and read that section. Don't go back and read the whole chapter. I would suggest you looking at diagrams again. I'm not particularly visual, but I can sometimes retain a picture in my head of a diagram of something I've seen. So you may want to go back and just look at pictures. Processes are very helpful. And I do recommend the questions at the end of the chapters. Those are good practice questions. The answers are available and gives you a good chance to have one more way of testing yourself on the material. So, mastering. Should you spend more time on these questions? And what about more practice questions? The mastering questions are there again as a resource. I'm not going to go copy and paste questions from mastering and put them on a test, but they again are helpful to review. Once again, they can help you diagnose areas that you didn't get the first time or were not clear. I would look at my worst quizzes first and go, oh yeah, that material didn't go well. If that's the case, since you know what video that's from, go back and watch that video again. That's where that's helpful. The answers are available. You can go back to any of your mastering quizzes and see the answers to those and use these questions to practice with. Again, I'm not going to pull these questions, so memorizing a question and memorizing the answers is not helpful, but they can help you steer your studying. I would use your book for more practice questions, and if you want to, just go search on the web for practice A&P questions, let's say in histology or chemistry or anatomical terms. You will find zillions of things, so that's another place to go look for some extra questions. The more you practice and look at more questions, the easier it will be for you to discern right from wrong answers. So again, I can tell immediately on the test if you've practiced. If you practice, the questions will just look easier to you. How to get ready for the essays. You've had a chance to look at some essays in class with your classmates. If you didn't do this when you were in class, you may want to even do it now. Take a question, pick a question at random, and just write out the first things you know, the first things you understand. You may go, I only got 2 or 3 things written out. Well, that's not good. You may want to go back and spend more time on that. If you had a lot to say, you're able to name quite a few things or several examples. Oops. Then you want to organize your thoughts in an outline form so that on a test, if you see that question again, you can just jot out the bullet points to help you remember what you wanted to say. If you're not sure what you are doing on an essay, something that's just not making sense at all, ask. I'm not going to tell you the answer, but I may help you look at what you come up with and may guide you towards something. And do understand that some of the questions I ask may require you to do a brief search. You may have to go back to your book or look on the web to help you fully answer that question. So do not wait until the night before to start looking at the essays. They will take some time to organize in your head. Don't make the 2 big classic mistakes. Some people just don't prepare. They just don't. They know that questions are there and they're just not going to look at them. I don't understand the strategy. I'm giving you the essays. They're right there. We're going to draw some at random. If you're ready for all of them, you're ready for the 2 we're going to draw. And some folks write incomplete essays. They just don't answer the whole question. If I ask for 3 examples and you give me 1, or if I ask to explain, part A and part B and you only explain part B, you can't get full credit for the question. So please make sure that you don't fall into those 2 categories. Don't forget, bring a number 2 pencil. You need it for the Scantron. There's a matching section, and that's where the definitions will often be. The root words in the back of your book will often be there as well. So you want to make sure you've looked at those words so that you're ready for the matching section. Again, don't spend a lot of time on that. If you've not spent any time at all, that's not particularly good. You want to go back and look at those, but again, it's better just to guess than to spend an hour or 2 on that in place of something else. There will be a Blackboard assignment this week that's actually going to be a helpful review assignment. You can take this assignment multiple times. It gives you multiple chances to practice. Highly recommend that you do that. And you're going to have roughly 90 minutes for the test, so you do need to plan for that. Don't be late. We're starting very close to on time, and we will have class for about an hour after the test. So we'll discuss the test procedures on the day of the test. So I just want you to plan on taking the test, taking a break, and then we'll come back to start our next topic. Okay, I believe that's it. Just want you to know that you can do this. All right, hopefully this video helps get you thinking about some strategies and some techniques. If you have any questions getting ready for it, let me know. Let's do well. You can do it.